Our lives are filled with pits, palaces, and prisons. Filled. Every place in our life, it could be either a pit, a palace, or a prison. Or a position as well, actually, I'm hearing. It's not just about pits, palaces, and prisons, it's also positions. But as I was making coffee this morning, God met me at my coffee machine. And what I was giving him thanks for was for the things that never happened to me. I was giving him thanks for the things that never happened to me, but I know happened to others. And then I was giving him thanks for the things that he did allow to happen to me, that did not happen to others. And suddenly I realized that our lives are filled with pits, with palaces, with prisons, and now positions. You know, there could be an area of your life that has been a place of pit for you, a place of desperation, a place of despair, a place of isolation. And it could be many different areas. It could be in your finances, it could have been in your health, it could have been in your mental aspect, it could have been with your family, it could have been in your childhood. There's been times or things in your life as well that have also been of a palace. You know, where you've really seen God give something so good to you, something beautiful. You know, I'll tell you how to recognize a palace in your life. If it is something that someone else would have dreamed of, that's a palace right there. That is a palace right there. And I'll just give you an example. I am so blessed to say that I was never sexually abused as a child. That's a palace right there, because I know that there are so many people on this planet that in that area has been a prison for them, and it has been a pit for them. There's also areas in my life where I could describe as a pit, my mental health being one of them. And this is just to give thanks to God. I'm just giving thanks to God right now, because all of those areas in our lives which have been pits, palaces, and prisons, God has been intentional. No, it wasn't easy. No, it wasn't nice. No, it shouldn't have been done, but it was. It was done. And that can be hard for some people as well, to come to the idea that God just held his breath in it. But I don't come to defend God. He defends himself. He is good, and good are his ways, even when we don't understand it. Look, I'm going to quickly jump here to Joseph. I feel like I needed to talk about Joseph today, because he is the ultimate story of a pit, a palace, and a prison, and a position too. And the beautiful thing about Joseph is his reaction and attitude. And you know, when Joseph was growing up, my opinion of this story, he was favoured. His dad loved him, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew he was the one. He was it. For his brothers, that could have been a bit of a pit or a bit of a prison. Maybe a prison, actually, I would say, for them. Why? Because they were all in this dark place together. Handcuffed, really. Because they couldn't make their dad love them the way that Joseph was loved. They just had to watch it. They just had to experience it from the other side. They experienced the world from another side. It wasn't Joseph's side, who was experiencing the palace of being the most favoured son. but they didn't handle it right. And I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to handle, because that is not an easy thing to handle. To be so put to the side and so set aside and to feel that difference, that's not easy. But they didn't handle it right. And Joseph, whilst he experienced growing up a bit of a palace to be the chosen son and the most loved, he very soon found himself in a pit. He found himself in a prison, as you know. And when he did finally make it back to the palace, it was because of his attitude. God loves a good attitude. And when he does finally confront his brothers, his words to them are that God meant it for good. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And for someone who has been a slave, drastically dropped in position, right? From being the next in line to his father's empire to being nothing. Nothing. I mean, most of us in this world in this time cannot even comprehend the meaning of the word nothing. Nothing. To be nothing, to be nameless, to be of no value, of no importance. I mean, back then, well, in this particular situation, being treated as a slave, to be treated like you are nothing. Most of us cannot even comprehend that. To go from having it all to being probably lower than a dog, that's got to really wrestle with your thoughts. That's got to wrestle with your feelings. That's got to really wrestle with your heart. How do you love those people again? How do you interact with those people? How do you move on? And yet he does. He does move on. He moves on before they even let him move on. Do you know that? Somebody needs to hear that. He moved on before they ever came back and said to him, "We are so sorry." He moved on. Gone. Like a bird in the sky. Gone. My friend, gone. He did not wait for his brothers to come back and grovel before he was okay with it. Joseph somehow came through what other people done to him. If this is really speaking to you, please leave me a comment, because I really feel God speaking here, and he's speaking to someone. Joseph came through before they ever grovelled on that ground. And this was not his first interaction. It was with them physically. It was with them in person. But this was not the first time that he had ever considered these men, these brothers. This was not the first time that he had considered deeply, painfully, what they had done to him and its consequence. I mean, this guy I believe like over 10 years of his life was a slave, was just gone. Genesis chapter 45. I'm going to read a bit of it here because I want you to hear this. Maybe you don't normally read this, maybe you do read this, but Let's read this. Let's read the word of God. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, "Make everyone go out from me." So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and he wept aloud, so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. That's pain right there. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" I want to just pause right there, because you see, there was something more important to Joseph than getting even with these men. He wasn't here to get even. After revealing himself to be Joseph, his first question is my father still alive? What I'm seeing here is someone who wants to pick up in the best way possible. He is not coming in and going for the jugular. He's moved past it. He's coming in and he's about to collect up the crumbs of broken pieces of biscuit on the floor. That's what he's coming straight for. He is not. This is a man who, now at this stage, had every power and ability. He could have killed these guys. He could have slayed them. He could have done anything to his brothers. And yet revenge doesn't seem to be on his hit list anymore. Crazy, right? Such a natural human instinct for us would be revenge, would be to get our own back, would be to get compensation for what has been done to us. And yet he goes for the crumbs on the floor. Is my father still alive? You see, he doesn't see the problem anymore. He sees the good part. The ability to reconnect with his father. He wasn't looking for a way to behead them. He was looking for a way to make the best of a really bad situation. And the best thing right here was his father. He moved straight past the people who practically in all ways, except for one, murdered him. He moved straight past them and he said, "Tell me, is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. So Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me, please." And they came near. And he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into slavery, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life." Don't be angry with yourself. Yes, it was wrong. But there was a bigger picture. But my friend, can you see your bigger picture? Can you see the masterpiece that God has laid out for you? You know, some may say you're a prisoner. Some may say you're a pit. That you're in a pit. That you're isolated. Some may say that you're nobody, that you're nameless. But what if you get out of all of those things? What if you pull yourself from all of those places? What if you move on? What if you move on? Beyond the hurt, beyond the pain, beyond the betrayal? What if you move so far from that horrible thing, those horrible people? What if you realize that you have such a big plan. That your life is bigger than a one event. It's even bigger than the 10-year event. It's bigger than the places that you've found yourselves in. It's bigger than your mental strongholds. What if your destiny is to help people around you in a place that you never dreamed you would ever go? You never dreamed that you would volunteer at that place. You never dreamed you'd be a part of that particular team. You never dreamed that you'd be working with those young people. You never dreamed that you'd be visiting prisoners. You know, your life is so much bigger. Bigger. It's bigger than what happened to you. What if God allowed you to be sent ahead in that area, so that one day you would not remain in your prison, but you would actually step upwards and walk into the palace of that area? That instead of remaining low and dark and hollow, that you would actually rise above it, that you would rise above what happened to you and become in charge of it. If you would actually use the very thing that happened to you to be the very thing that pushes you forward. What kind of a destiny would that propel you into, my friend? And I'm just going to finish actually with this, Joseph, having had 2 sons, before he ever reconnects with his brothers, his first son, this is in Genesis chapter 41, verses 51. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. God has made me forget all of that hardship. Forget all of that hardship. But not only that, the name of the second he called Ephraim. For God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. For God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. What does it look like for you to be fruitful in the place of your affliction? What does that look like? How could that look? To be fruitful in that place. Not only to forget what was done, but to be fruitful in spite of what was done. My coffee's cold, and if you're still with me, if you've stayed, thank you so much. And I just bless you. I bless you so much. Leave me a comment, a like, subscribe, and God be with you.